Chapter 3057. Chu Baxings's whirlpool was truly terrifying. Even Lu Ming wouldn't be able to withstand it head-on. Outside the stage, Yu Han's expression turned grave. Chu Baxings's move was indeed too powerful. Even with his strange cultivation method, it was still a threat to him. He might not be able to completely negate the attack. Lu Ming, go to hell. Ha ha ha. Chu Baxing laughed as the whirlpool continued to envelop Lu Ming. Before it even reached him, Lu Ming already found it hard to breathe. Starburst! Lu Ming roared as the divine fire in his body burned fiercely. Boundless divine power rushed towards the spear. Lu Ming used Starburst once again. A huge spear light rushed towards the whirlpool and exploded. The destructive power continued to attack the whirlpool. Hoo hoo hoo, wong wong wong. Under the impact of the destructive energy, the vortex continued to vibrate. In the end, it retreated some distance and its spinning speed seemed to slow down a little. However, after just a few breaths, the vortex continued to spin faster and faster, emitting whistling sounds. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes. Starburst was able to block the war god's attack, but it couldn't block this move. One could only imagine how powerful this move was. However, Lu Ming didn't plan to use the ice shackles to protect himself. Lu Ming planned to use the ice shackles to deal with Yu Han. Lu Ming found that the ice shackles was very useful in his battle with Yu Lian. Lu Ming didn't want to expose it now. Die! Chu Baxing roared again as the whirlpool attacked Lu Ming again. Starburst! Lu Ming roared again and used Starburst. The destructive power sent the whirlpool flying again. It seems like you can't kill me. Lu Ming smiled faintly. I don't believe that you can keep using this move. Chu Baxing bellowed. Lu Ming's move was too powerful, and he couldn't keep using it. The move he was using now was not only draining his divine power, but it was also damaging to his body. He wouldn't use it unless he had no other choice. Today, Lu Ming had forced him into a corner, and that was why he had used it. You don't believe me? Then I'll have to disappoint you. Starburst? Lu Ming laughed disdainfully. As soon as he finished his words, he cast another supernova move. Boom! The destructive energy once again bombarded the vortex, and the vortex was sent flying. Moreover, Lu Ming noticed that after a few consecutive attacks, the whirlpool's speed of rotation was constantly slowing down. Clearly, Chu Baxing was not completely unscathed by Lu Ming's continuous attacks. He was running out of energy. Since it worked, let's do it again. In his sea of consciousness, the quantum character formula glowed, and a steady stream of divine power flowed into Lu Ming's body. In a few breaths, Lu Ming's divine power was replenished. Starburst! Lu Ming used another move. Boom! The whirlpool was sent flying again, and its speed was even slower than before. Obviously, even its power was reduced. Damn it! Damn it! Why can't his divine power be used up? Chu Baxing roared in his heart. He was starting to panic. If this continued, he wouldn't be able to maintain it for a few more moves. Once he couldn't, the consequences would be dire. Starburst! Lu Ming's divine power was replenished, and he used another spear move. This time, the whirlpool was sent flying, and it crashed into the light barrier at the edge of the stage. It almost stopped spinning. Freak! Su Yin, the beast skin youth, and the others muttered. Of course, they were describing Lu Ming. In their hearts, Lu Ming was indeed a freak. Chu Baxing roared furiously from within the whirlpool. He tried his best to make the whirlpool spin faster. However, his divine power was severely depleted, and the side effects of using this move were starting to show. His body was starting to crack. If possible, he wanted to stop the battle. However, this was a battle of life and death. He had no choice but to grit his teeth and fight. Right now, he could only pray that Lu Ming's divine power would run out, and he would be at his mercy. Therefore, he had to hold on. But soon, he despaired. Starburst! Lu Ming spat out the words that made him feel hopeless. Then, a terrifying spear gleam charged toward him. Boom! This time, Chu Baxing was sent flying again, and he crashed into the light barrier at the edge of the stage. This time, Chu Baxing couldn't hold on any longer. The whirlpool collapsed, revealing Chu Baxing's body. Chu Baxing's body was horrifying. His skin was covered in bloody scars, as if his body was about to split apart. His aura was extremely weak, and he was worlds apart from his previous berserk state. Not only did he suffer a backlash, but he was also heavily injured by Lu Ming. He couldn't fight anymore. Chu Baxing, it looks like you'll be the one to die, Lu Ming said coldly as he stepped forward. Lu Ming, you can't kill me. Chu Baxing's eyes were filled with fear as he roared. I can't kill you? Don't use your status to threaten me again. I won't fall for it, Lu Ming said indifferently. Chu Baxing gritted his teeth. He did want to use his status to threaten Lu Ming so that Lu Ming would let him go. But now, other than this, was there any other way? Lu Ming, my identity is different. I am from the god of combat lineage. My ancestor is the god of combat of the Taishu Sacred Court. If you kill me, you won't be able to survive no matter where you go. In the end, Chu Baxing used the faction behind him to threaten Chu Baxing. He believed that the faction behind him was different from others. Unfortunately, in Lu Ming's eyes, they were all the same. The war god bloodline has declined. It's already under the control of the Nine Sabers' Heavenly Emperor residence. How dare you threaten me with it? Ridiculous, Lu Ming said disdainfully. Don't you dare insult the war god bloodline. Our war god bloodline will rise again. We have a peerless genius among the younger generation. He'll definitely lead the war god bloodline to glory. Lu Ming, I can see that you're a talent. Why don't you join the war god bloodline? I'll guarantee you a meteoric rise. Chu Baxing roared. Naive, Lu Ming said coldly. He didn't want to waste time talking nonsense with Chu Baxing. His long spear shook, and a dozen spear auras shot towards Chu Baxing. Chu Baxing roared and tried his best to block, but in his current state, he couldn't exert much of his strength. He was too weak compared to Lu Ming. Asterisk puff puff puff, asterisk his body was pierced by the spear auras. Lu Ming, the war god bloodline will avenge me, Chu Baxing roared. Then, his forehead was pierced by the spear auras, and his soul was destroyed together with it. Chu Baxing, the outstanding successor of the war god bloodline, died at the hands of Lu Ming. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming put away Chu Baxing's storage ring. P.S. Readers, I'm the shepherd boy Ting Zhu. I'm recommending a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, zero ads, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 3058. Phew. Su Yin and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Their eyes were filled with shock. Chu Baxing was a domineering figure, but he was killed by a fifth-level heavenly god. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. They looked at Lu Ming with fear and solemnity in their eyes. If Lu Ming could kill Chu Baxing, it meant that he could kill them too. However, there were two exceptions. They were the two sky prides from the abysmal Heavenly King residence. Especially Yu Han. His cultivation technique was strange, so he wasn't too worried. Lu Ming's strongest attack wasn't abnormally strong, so Yu Han was confident that he could withstand it. However, he was more wary of Chu Baxing's vortex. Yu Han wasn't confident that he could withstand that attack. However, Yu Han was confident that he could handle Lu Ming's strongest move, Exploding Star. After all, Lu Ming had to use 5 or 6 exploding stars to defeat Chu Baxing. However, Yu Han wasn't Chu Baxing. He wouldn't let Lu Ming attack him like a fool. He had plenty of ways to deal with Lu Ming while Lu Ming was attacking. Therefore, his eyes were still filled with confidence. After Lu Ming killed Chu Baxing's path disappeared along with the battle platform. Lu Ming returned to his path. The next battle was between Yu Han and the Sky Pride from the abysmal Heavenly King residence. I admit defeat. The Sky Pride from the abysmal Heavenly King residence admitted defeat. He and Yu Han were both from the abysmal Heavenly King residence, so he knew that he wasn't Yu Han's match. With that, the final two contestants were Yu Han and Lu Ming. This is the last battle. The winner will get the Natal Spirit Stone. Give it your all. The Formation Spirit said. With a wave of his hand, the path beneath Lu Ming and Yu Han's feet extended and merged together to form a battle platform. Whoosh! Yu Han's figure dashed directly to the fighting ring, looking at Lu Ming with a cold and sinister gaze. Come on, die. Yu Han shouted coldly. Why is everyone so confident? Lu Ming pursed his lips. He stepped forward and landed on the fighting ring. Immediately, a light barrier enveloped the fighting stage. Because I have the strength, so I am confident. Yu Han sneered. Before he could finish his sentence, his body had already charged towards Lu Ming at lightning speed. Lu Ming immediately displayed the ancient god tactics and transformed into a green-armored ancient god. With a shake of his long spear, dozens of spear radiances pierced out and pierced towards Yu Han. However, Yu Han's body was like a ghost, rushing towards Lu Ming. In a flash, she dodged the spear lights and continued to rush towards Lu Ming. However, all of this was within Lu Ming's expectations. Lu Ming and Yu Lian had fought before and already had some idea of the other party's methods. Wong. The long spear vibrated and a crescent-shaped spear radiance slashed towards Yu Han. Yu Han's body emitted a mist, and within the mist, there seemed to be endless cries of injustice. His body trembled continuously, dissipating the power of the crescent moon slash. The crescent moon slash did not cause much damage to him, and Yu Han continued to rush towards Lu Ming. 9 Serenity's Ghost Claw. Yu Han shouted and a ghost claw was formed, grabbing towards Lu Ming. His eyes were filled with excitement, as if he could see the scene of Lu Ming being killed by him. Boom! A wave of energy from the 9 Serenity's Ghost Claw hit Lu Ming. The strange energy passed through Lu Ming's body and rushed towards Lu Ming's soul. However, Lu Ming's soul was protected by the Jingyu painting. When the energy hit the Jingyu painting, it had no effect on Lu Ming's soul. Yu Han was waiting for Lu Ming's soul to be affected and his strength to weaken before launching a thunderous attack. However, what he waited for was Lu Ming's thunderous attack. Exploding Star. Lu Ming shouted and used the Exploding Star move. A terrifying spear radiance rushed towards Yu Han and exploded. The destructive energy shrouded Yu Han in an instant. How can this be? How can this be? Yu Han screamed in shock. At the same time, he retreated rapidly. His body emitted a thick mist and ghostly shadows appeared, blocking the destructive energy around him. Puff, puff, puff. A large number of ghostly shadows turned into ashes under the destructive energy and disappeared completely. Finally, Yu Han retreated out of the attack range. However, his face was pale. Obviously, this move had caused him to suffer a great loss. His eyes were filled with anger as he stared at Lu Ming. That move had caused him to suffer a great loss. Brat, how can you block my soul attack? Yu Han roared. Idiot, why should I tell you? Lu Ming despised the other party. He took a step forward and charged toward the other party. Luck, it must be luck. I don't believe it. Yu Han roared and pounced towards Lu Ming again. Unfortunately, this time was the same as the previous time. When his attack landed on Lu Ming, it had no effect on Lu Ming. On the contrary, Lu Ming seized the opportunity and used another Exploding Star move. Yu Han's face turned pale, and he lost a large number of ghostly shadows. Damn it, you're not afraid of my soul attack. Oh right, you must have a treasure to protect your soul. Yu Han roared. It's too late to know now. Lu Ming sneered. Too late? It's not late at all. Lu Ming, do you think you can kill me? As long as I dodge with all my strength, your attacks won't be able to reach me. No matter how much divine force you have, it will run out sooner or later. I can exhaust you to death. Yu Han shouted angrily. The fog around her became thicker and thicker, about to envelop the entire fighting stage. At the same time, ghostly shadows flickered in the fog. Yu Han's body kept flickering, as if she had merged with the ghostly shadows, making it difficult for people to track her. Even if Lu Ming wasn't afraid of soul attacks, he wasn't afraid. Lu Ming's strongest attack wasn't as strong as Chu Baxing's. As long as he dodged, it would be difficult to deal a heavy blow to him. Is that so? The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled into a sneer. With a thought, the ice shackles flew out. As soon as the 9 ice chains flew out, they rapidly lengthened and revolved around the battle stage. A terrifying coldness permeated the air. Layers of ice crystals appeared in the air, freezing the ghostly figures. Yu Han was shocked. I'll shrink the battle stage. Let's see how you're going to dodge. Lu Ming said coldly. He manipulated the ice shackles to dance around the fighting ring. Soon, the fighting ring was covered with ice shackles, and the space in the fighting ring was shrinking rapidly. You want to trap me? Dream on. All you have to do is destroy these chains. Yuhan shrieked and launched an attack, bombarding the ice shackles relentlessly. However, the ice chains only shook a few times and didn't break. At this moment, Yuhan's expression changed completely. How is this possible? How can it be so hard? Yuhan screamed in horror. Chapter 3059. Yuhan's overall strength was strong, but he relied more on his strange cultivation technique and the soul shock technique. However, his attack power was not as strong as Jin Yuan and Chu Baxing, so he could not break the ice chains. This was a move that Lu Ming had prepared for Yuhan. Compared to Lu Ming, dealing with Yuhan was easier than dealing with Chu Baxing. Boom, boom. Yuhan kept attacking the ice shackles, but it was useless. On the contrary, the terrifying chill of the ice shackles almost froze his body, causing his speed to decrease a little. Damn it, damn it. Yuhan was really panicking. She roared furiously, no longer having the confidence she had before. Starburst. Lu Ming stepped forward and performed the supernova move, blasting it toward Yuhan. Boom. The destructive force swept towards Yuhan. Yuhan wanted to dodge, but he was surrounded by ice chains. There was no way he could dodge. The terrifying destructive force bombarded his body continuously. Green smoke rose from his body, and a large number of ghostly shadows were turned into ashes by the destructive force. After one move, Yuhan's aura was weakened. Without being able to dodge, he was even weaker than Chu Baxing. He was severely injured in one move. No. Yuhan was completely panicking. He kept shouting and wanted to retreat. With a few flashes, he dodged some of the ice chains. Unfortunately, the light shield of the fighting stage was behind him. He slammed into the light shield and was blocked by it. Despair was written all over his face. If they were outside, Lu Ming wouldn't be able to do anything to him even if he had the ice chains. Even if he couldn't win, he could still escape. However, the space here was too small. He couldn't escape at all. Senior, let me out. I don't want the life spirit vitality stone anymore. Let me out. Yuhan kept shouting. However, the erase spirit was indifferent and unmoved. Yuhan was in despair. Starburst. Another low voice was heard, and then a destructive force drowned Yuhan. Bang! Yuhan's body directly exploded, turning into ghostly shadows. Among them, more than half of the ghostly shadows were destroyed by the destructive force. The remaining half wriggled, trying to recover and merge back together. However, Lu Ming struck again. The destructive energy completely drowned Yuhan. Yuhan let out a cry of despair. This time, all the ghostly shadows were destroyed, completely vanishing into thin air. As for Yuhan, she had completely fallen. Another genius had been killed by Lu Ming. This time around, killing Yuhan was much easier than killing Chu Baxing. It was a completely one-sided battle. The main reason was that Yuhan's various advantages and methods were completely ineffective against Lu Ming. In this relatively narrow environment, Yuhan was restrained by Lu Ming. She couldn't dodge even if she wanted to, and was easily killed by Lu Ming. This Lu Ming must be eliminated, Jin Yuan muttered, his eyes flashing with murderous intent. He was thinking about how to get rid of Lu Ming with the help of the Jin family after leaving Xingyue Ancient City. Kid, you killed a genius of the abysmal heavenly palace. We will remember this. The last genius of the abysmal heavenly palace said coldly. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he looked at Lu Ming. The others also had different thoughts in their minds. If you're not afraid of death, then come at me. Lu Ming replied indifferently and ignored them. All right, the final winner has been born. The natal spirit stone already has an owner. The rest of you, go back. The erase spirit said. After speaking, he waved his hand. The path under Su Yin, Jin Yuan, and the rest quickly shrank and disappeared into the chaotic fog. Only Lu Ming was left at the scene. Come up. The erase spirit waved his hand again. The path under Lu Ming's feet extended all the way to the high platform where the array spirit was. Lu Ming stepped forward and finally walked up to the high platform. There was nothing else on the high platform except for an altar. The altar looked very old and was filled with the aura of time. On top of the altar, there was a black ball floating there. Is this the natal spirit stone? Lu Ming stared at the ball, his eyes shining with a fiery light. In the early days of the Heavenly Palace era, it was guarded by so many powerful existences. Along the way, there were many barriers to protect the natal spirit stone. How mysterious was it? Lu Ming was looking forward to it. Senior, is this the natal spirit stone? Lu Ming asked the array spirit. That's right. This is the natal spirit stone. It's yours now. You just need to drip a drop of blood on it, and you can keep it. The array spirit smiled. Thank you, Senior. Lu Ming cupped his fists and then stepped up to the side of the altar. He forced out a drop of blood and dripped it on the black natal spirit stone. Suddenly, a ray of black light appeared on the natal spirit stone. In a flash, the drop of blood was absorbed by the natal spirit stone. At this moment, Lu Ming seemed to have established a connection with the natal spirit stone. It was as if Lu Ming could control the natal spirit stone at will. With a thought, the natal spirit stone on the altar flew up and turned into a rainbow light. It flew into Lu Ming's glabella and disappeared. The next moment, the natal spirit stone appeared in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness and floated there quietly. Come out, Lu Ming muttered. The natal spirit stone appeared in Lu Ming's palm. Lu Ming channeled his divine power and poured it into the natal spirit stone. However, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. There was no reaction at all. Senior, how do I use this natal spirit stone? What does it do? Lu Ming asked the array spirit. It doesn't work. The array spirit answered lightly. Lu Ming staggered and almost fell. What? It doesn't work? Lu Ming looked at the array spirit with an ugly expression and said, Senior, what do you mean by it doesn't work? It means it doesn't work. Don't you understand? The array spirit said. Lu Ming's face sank. He was really speechless. He had risked his life all the way here, and what he got in the end was a piece of scrap metal. Lu Ming was about to vomit blood. It was a trap. It was a trap. However, if it didn't work, why did so many people guard it? Little guy, don't be discouraged. I said it doesn't work because the natal spirit stone you got is just a fragment. The array spirit said, A fragment? This isn't complete? Lu Ming asked speechlessly. Yes, this is not a complete natal spirit stone. It's just a fragment. The other fragments are scattered everywhere. I don't know where they are. The array spirit said, It's just a fragment. What can I do with it? Lu Ming sighed. He was still brooding over this. Little guy, don't underestimate this fragment. It's a fragment of the natal spirit stone. In the early Heavenly Palace era, no, even in the incipient God era, this was a rare treasure. It has a great effect. Do you know? The array spirit said. Chapter 3060. The array spirit rambled on about how awesome the life spirit stone was. He said that it was already a great fortune for Lu Ming to get a fragment. However, Lu Ming was not in the mood to listen at all. He had worked so hard to get a fragment, but it was useless. He was very unhappy. Little guy, you must not underestimate a fragment. If you can collect all the fragments in the future and turn them into a complete life spirit stone, it will be a great fortune for you. It can help you become the overlord of the primitive universe. The array spirit persuaded Lu Ming earnestly. Become the overlord of the primitive universe? Are you bragging? Lu Ming did not believe it. Of course it's true. I can swear that a complete life spirit stone will definitely be more useful than you can imagine. The array spirit swore Dandan. Hearing what the array spirit said, Lu Ming was really a little tempted. As Lu Ming's cultivation continued to improve, he saw more and more things. His horizons were broadened, and he knew more about the primitive universe. However, the more he knew, the more he was in awe. The primitive universe was too big, too big, too big. It was boundless. In the primitive universe, there were countless races, countless powerhouses, and countless powerful forces. Not to mention the Qintian starfield, Even a universe-level force like the Taishu dynasty only occupied a corner of the primitive universe. In the primitive universe, there were countless universe empires like the Taishu dynasty or forces of the same level. There were even forces more terrifying than the Taishu dynasty. No one knew how many terrifying powerhouses there were in the primitive universe. Perhaps there was an invincible powerhouse living in seclusion on a remote planet. Therefore, it was too difficult to become the overlord of the primitive universe. There were countless powerhouses in the primitive universe, but how many dared to be called an overlord? The Array Spirit said that as long as he got a complete life spirit stone, it could help him become the overlord of the universe. This made Lu Ming excited. Seeing Lu Ming's eyes lit up, the Array Spirit continued. So, work hard and find the remaining fragments of the life spirit stone. You are very talented. I have high hopes for you. Lu Ming glanced at the Array Spirit. He had a feeling that the Array Spirit wanted Lu Ming to find the remaining fragments. It looked more anxious than Lu Ming. How do I find the remaining fragments? Lu Ming asked. The Natal Spirit Stone is a rare treasure. Even if it's just a fragment, it's still a rare treasure. It has its own spirituality and will look for an opportunity to come out and find a suitable genius to become its master, just like you. The Array Spirit said. Lu Ming's gaze shifted. That's right. That's why you have to kill other geniuses with Natal Spirit Stone fragments to obtain their Natal Spirit Stone fragments. That's the only way their Natal Spirit Stone fragments will recognize you as its master and merge with your Natal Spirit Stone fragments. The Array Spirit explained. Then where can I find those geniuses? The primitive universe is so big. Isn't it like looking for a needle in a haystack? Lu Ming frowned. Of course not. Fragments of Natal Spirit Stones have a strange connection with each other. As the owners of the fragments of Natal Spirit Stones, they will eventually meet. Once they meet, you will know who the owner of the Natal Spirit Stone is. But let me tell you, the Life Spirit Vitality Stone fragments won't recognize anyone as its master unless they're a peerless genius. So, in the future, when you meet geniuses, they'll be terrifying geniuses. You have to work hard and improve your strength. You're still too weak. The Array Spirit continued to explain. Can I not take the Life Spirit Vitality Stone fragment? Lu Ming said, feeling rather speechless. He had obtained the Life Spirit Vitality Stone fragment, but he had gained nothing. Instead, a group of enemies had appeared out of nowhere. He was even more displeased. No, you've already dripped your blood. You can't refuse it even if you don't want to. Geniuses with Vitality Stones are destined to be enemies. Even if you don't kill others, others will kill you. Young man, work hard. The Array Spirit continued, its eyes full of anticipation. Lu Ming felt that he had fallen into a trap. He had not gained any benefits, but he had gained himself a group of potential enemies. Moreover, they were all extremely terrifying enemies. Senior, how do I get out? Lu Ming sighed. He could only accept his fate and leave first. The platform under your feet is a teleportation formation. It can help you leave this place. You just have to inject your divine power into the altar. With that, the Array Spirit turned into a rainbow light, flew into the Life Spirit Vitality Stone, and disappeared. Seeing this scene, Lu Ming's eyes widened. He felt that something was wrong and shouted, "Wait, come out!" The Life Spirit Vitality Stone fragment shone, and the Array Spirit's figure appeared again. Little guy, why are you calling me? The Array Spirit asked. Aren't you the Array Spirit here? Why are you in the Life Spirit Vitality Stone fragment? Lu Ming asked. Ahem, I'm indeed such an Array Spirit. The Array Spirit coughed a few times and said without blushing, Old man, you lied to me. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and said, Since you're the Array Spirit here, you can only stay here forever and accompany the Array here. You entered the Life Spirit Vitality Stone fragment to leave. How can an Array Spirit leave? So, you're not the Array Spirit. Who are you? Why did you lie to me? With that, Lu Ming stared at the Array Spirit without blinking. He felt that he had been deceived by the old man. Ahem, ahem. Ha ha ha, little guy. You're worthy of being a peerless genius. To be recognized by the Life Spirit Vitality Stone fragment, You're really not simple. To tell you the truth, I'm not the array spirit. I'm the rock spirit of the life spirit vitality stone. The old man coughed a few times and laughed. The rock spirit of the life spirit vitality stone? Then why did you lie to me before? Lu Ming asked, still staring at the old man. I didn't tell you before because I wanted to test you and see if you could tell. You didn't let me down. The old man laughed and said, bullshit. This old man was definitely bullshitting. He even said that he wanted to test Lu Ming. He was definitely boasting shamelessly. Old man, you're shameless. Lu Ming stared at the old man. This guy said that he was the rock spirit, and Lu Ming believed him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to enter the life spirit vitality stone fragment so easily. Ahem, little guy, what are you talking about? How can you say that about an old man? The rock spirit coughed a few more times. If I'm not wrong, every life spirit vitality stone fragment has a rock spirit. As long as you can kill other geniuses who have obtained the life spirit vitality stone fragment, not only can the life spirit vitality stone fragment fuse, you can also swallow other rock spirits to strengthen yourself, right? Lu Ming said. Chapter 3061. Lu Ming's words caused Shiling's expression to change. Little guy, you can even guess this? Shiling was really surprised this time. It's just a random guess. It seems that I guessed right. Lu Ming's face was cold. This old guy was bragging about how awesome the life spirit vitality stone was to tempt Lu Ming. He was up to no good. He wanted to use Lu Ming to integrate other rock spirits. No wonder he didn't tell Lu Ming that he was a rock spirit and not a formation spirit. Lu Ming even suspected that a complete life spirit vitality stone was not as awesome as Shiling said. It could help him become a universe overlord. He must be bragging. Little guy, don't look at me like that. The more rock spirits I integrate, the stronger I will be. The stronger I am, the stronger the life spirit vitality stone, and the more benefits it will bring to you. I'm doing this for your own good. Shiling said shamelessly. However, Lu Ming didn't really believe this old guy. He felt that he had really fallen into a trap. Old guy, since you are a rock spirit and the life spirit vitality stone fragment has recognized me as its master, it means that you have recognized me as your master. Is it appropriate for you to call me little guy? Lu Ming stared at Shiling with an unfriendly look. Shiling looked embarrassed and smiled brightly. It's just a form of address. Why take it so seriously? Look at me. I'm already so old. It's not bad to call you little guy. Why don't I call you Lu Ming? Lu Ming's face was still sullen. He stared at Shiling and didn't say a word. Shiling felt guilty and said, okay, master. I'll call you master, okay? Shiling Sheen said unwillingly. That's more like it. Lu Ming's mood was finally a little better. Anyway, he felt that Shiling was very unreliable. He couldn't be bothered to be polite with him. Go in. I'm leaving. Lu Ming said. The rock spirit nodded, turned into a beam of light, and drilled into the life spirit stone fragment. Then, Lu Ming put the life spirit stone fragment into his sea of consciousness, walked to the altar, and poured his divine power into it. Wong. As soon as he channeled his divine power into the altar, runes began to appear on the altar. Then, runes began to appear on the entire platform. Shiling was right. This platform was a transportation array. Runes filled the air, and a door of light appeared. Lu Ming stepped in, and in the next moment, Lu Ming discovered that he had appeared on top of a mountain peak. Lu Ming looked around and discovered that he was already outside the castle. He was about tens of thousands of li away from the castle. Looks like there are no treasures in this entire castle. Only a fragment of the life spirit origin stone was left behind. Lu Ming muttered a few words, then soared into the sky, turned into a beam of light, and left this place. Inside the castle, many sky prides were still exploring, but Jin Yuan, Su Yan, and the others continued to explore. After discovering that there was nothing to be gained, they all left. Lu Ming flew all the way, and after flying for hundreds of thousands of li, he found a place to land. It's been a few months since I entered the castle. I wonder if Wu Ming and the others have any news about the mid-autumn moon. Lu Ming pondered, then took out a voice transmission jade talisman. First, He sent a message to the mid-autumn moon, but he still could not send it. Then, he sent a message to Wu Ming. Unexpectedly, not long after, Wu Ming replied. The message said that they had found clues about the mid-autumn moon. Seeing this, Lu Ming was overjoyed. After arranging a meeting place with Wu Ming and the others, Lu Ming hurried to the meeting place. A day later, Lu Ming met Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others. Brothers Wu, you said that you have news about the mid-autumn moon, is it true? As soon as he saw Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others, Lu Ming couldn't wait to ask. It's true. During this period, we've been asking around and finally found some clues. It said that someone saw the mid-autumn moon at the Myriad Moon Lake. Wu Ming said, Myriad Moon Lake? What time period? Lu Ming asked. He knew about the Myriad Moon Lake. It was recorded on the map that Wu Zixiong gave him. It was a huge lake that was extremely mysterious. I heard that they saw it when they first entered Xingyue Ancient City, but then it disappeared. Wu Ming frowned. Saw it when they first entered Xingyue Ancient City? Lu Ming frowned, and he had a bad feeling in his heart. The mid-autumn moon appeared at the beginning, but then it disappeared. Even the voice transmission jade talisman could not be sent out. What was going on? Did something really happen? Brother Lu, don't worry. I believe that the mid-autumn moon will be fine. Yes. Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others comforted Lu Ming. Thank you, Brother Wu. Lu Ming will take his leave now. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, Brother Lu, why don't we go with you? Wu Zixiong said, No need. I'll go to the Myriad Moon Lake. Next, I'll have to trouble you to help me find out about the mid-autumn moon. Lu Ming said, Of course. Brother Lu, don't worry. Wu Ming and the others nodded. They also knew that Lu Ming's strength was much stronger than theirs. If they followed Lu Ming, not only would they not be able to help, but they might even drag Lu Ming down. It was better for Lu Ming to act alone. Lu Ming said goodbye to Wu Ming and the others and went to the Myriad Moon Lake alone. The Myriad Moon Lake was west of where Lu Ming was. Lu Ming spent more than a day to reach the Myriad Moon Lake. A boundless lake appeared in front of him. This lake was very mysterious. There seemed to be countless bright moonlight shadows on the lake, which was why it was called the Myriad Moon Lake. Rumble. Loud rumbling noises could still be heard from far away. Lu Ming flew to the center of the Myriad Moon Lake. Not long after, Lu Ming found a huge whirlpool in the center of the lake. The rumbling sound came from this whirlpool. The whirlpool was very large, at least a few thousand miles in radius. The endless lake water was sucked into the whirlpool, but the strange thing was that the lake water did not decrease. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes moved. He saw a figure on the other side of the whirlpool. It was a young man. He was a winged person with a pair of green wings on his back. There were wisps of lightning swimming on his wings. He was a thunder-winged person of the winged race. The winged race was an extremely large race in the primitive universe. It was divided into many different branches of the winged race, and their strength was unparalleled. The thunder-winged race was just one of the branches of the winged race. Lu Ming remembered that there was an ancient family in the 9-extinction Heavenly King residence, and all of them were thunder-winged people. The other party looked at Lu Ming, and his eyes flickered. Obviously, he recognized Lu Ming. Lu Ming flew over and cupped his fists. Brother, I want to ask you something. May I ask if you have seen this woman? After saying that, Lu Ming took out a jade talisman. The jade talisman shone, and the image of the autumn moon appeared out of thin air. This jade talisman sealed the image of the autumn moon. Chapter 3062. When the winged man youth saw the image of mid-autumn moon, his eyes flickered and he was surprised. Lu Ming noticed this clearly. Brother, have you seen this woman before? Lu Ming quickly asked. Yes, I have. The winged man youth nodded. Where have I seen him before? When? Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he quickly asked. Who is this woman to you? Why should I tell you? The winged man youth turned his eyes and asked. This woman is my wife. She entered Star Crescent Ancient City with me. I think you know her. Lu Ming said. Oh, so she's your wife. To tell you the truth, when I first entered Star Crescent Ancient City, I was teleported nearby and happened to see your wife. However, she later entered this whirlpool. The winged man youth said. She entered this whirlpool? Lu Ming's heart sank and more doubts arose in his heart. Why did Mid-Autumn Moon enter this whirlpool? But then again, it was not impossible. The voice transmission Jade Talisman could not send any messages. It was very likely that it was isolated. If Mid-Autumn Moon was in this whirlpool, it was normal that the voice transmission Jade Talisman could not send any messages. Brother, have you seen my wife after that? Lu Ming asked again. No. To be honest, I have been cultivating nearby for the past few years and have not seen your wife. Your wife entered this whirlpool and never came out. The wingman youth said. She never came out. Could it be that Mid-Autumn Moon has been in there all this time? Lu Ming became more worried. In the end, Lu Ming decided to go in and check it out himself. Although he did not know whether the whirlpool was dangerous or not, Lu Ming had to make this trip. Thank you. Lu Ming cupped his fists at the youth of the Winged Men clan before he turned around and left. After checking the surroundings of the whirlpool, Lu Ming's figure flashed, and he directly rushed into the whirlpool. As soon as he dashed into the vortex, the surrounding huge waves slammed toward Lu Ming. Even a sacred mountain would be smashed into smithereens. However, Lu Ming circulated his divine power, and the 9-layered crimson gold armor appeared, easily blocking the attack of the giant wave. Lu Ming followed the power of the whirlpool and went into the depths of the whirlpool, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Seeing that Lu Ming had entered the whirlpool, the young man from the Winged Men clan sneered and revealed a ferocious killing intent. Lu Ming, there's something I forgot to tell you. Your wife was forced into this whirlpool by me. This whirlpool is definitely very dangerous. I hope you die in there, The youth of the Winged Men clan kept sneering. He did not leave immediately. Instead, he waited in the surroundings. After waiting for a few months, he did not see Lu Ming coming out. Hence, he left this place. Lu Ming naturally did not hear what the youth of the Winged Men clan said. He followed the whirlpool and kept going down. Gradually, the whirlpool became smaller. Finally, Lu Ming's body became lighter. He found that he had come out of the whirlpool and arrived at an underground space. The walls of this underground space were carved with lifelike statues. They looked like ancient deities that had traveled through time and space to come here. There was indeed another world under the myriad moon lake. The Mid-Autumn Moon should be under here. Lu Ming looked around and finally found a passage. Lu Ming followed the passage and went forward. There was nothing unusual along the way. After passing through the passage, he came to a bigger palace. Ta-ta-ta. When Lu Ming stepped into the palace, he heard footsteps coming from the palace. Lu Ming was shocked and looked in a direction. There was a big door in that direction. Not long after, a figure walked out from behind the big door. It was an old man from the human clan. He was wearing a snow-white robe and had a head full of white hair. He had a snow-white beard and looked like an immortal. However, Lu Ming stared at the old man cautiously. This old man was not like Shi Ling, who had an illusory body. He was a living being with flesh and blood. How could there be such an old man in Starry Crescent Ancient City? Could it be that he was a native of this place? Or was he an old monster that had survived from the early days of the Heavenly Palace? Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. Finally, someone else is here. The elder looked at Lu Ming and smiled gently. His smile was amiable, and it made one feel as though they were bathed in the spring breeze. Anyway, Lu Ming did not feel any malice from the old man. Senior, a friend of mine has entered this place. I'm here to look for someone. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, You're looking for a beautiful lady, right? The old man asked with a smile. That's right. Have you seen her before? Lu Ming was overjoyed. He quickly took out the image of Autumn Moon and showed it to the old man. The old man glanced at it and nodded. That's right. It's this lady who came here a few years ago. Where is this lady now? To tell you the truth, this lady is my wife, Lu Ming said. Although Lu Ming and Autumn Moon were not officially married, Lu Ming had already regarded her as his wife in his heart. So she's your wife. The old man smiled and said, You don't have to worry. Your wife is very safe and has obtained a supreme opportunity. Obtained a supreme opportunity? What do you mean? Lu Ming asked again. He would not believe the old man so easily. This place was the cave of a supreme expert in the early days of the Heavenly Palace era. That supreme expert was my ancestor's master. Later on, that supreme expert passed away and left behind his inheritance. Your wife happens to be suitable for this inheritance. All these years, she has been receiving the inheritance. Isn't this a great opportunity? The old man said. The inheritance of a supreme expert? Lu Ming's eyes flickered as he thought quickly. The old man's words revealed a lot of information. First of all, this place was the cave of a supreme expert in the early days of the Heavenly Palace era. That expert passed away and left behind his inheritance. The old man's ancestor was that expert's servant. In that case, this old man was really a native of Xingyue ancient city and had been guarding this place since then? Of course, Lu Ming would not believe the old man just because of a few words. Senior, can I see my wife? Lu Ming asked. She's receiving the inheritance and is at a critical moment. I'm afraid it's inconvenient for her to see you, the old man said. Lu Ming's face darkened. If he did not see her, how would Lu Ming know if the old man was telling the truth? However, if you really want to see her, I can let you see her. At the end of his words, the old man changed the topic. Then, he waved his hand and his palm shone. An image appeared in the void. In the image, there was a stone room where a beautiful woman was sitting cross-legged. Her body was emitting 9-colored divine light. Who else could this woman be other than Autumn Moon? Xiaoyu sat cross-legged with a solemn expression on her face. There was a huge sphere floating above her head. Chapter 3063. There was a round ball floating above Mid-Autumn Moon's head. This round ball was a stone ball. It looked very ancient and had a diameter of a few meters. It was emitting a hazy glow. However, at a glance, this round ball looked like an eyeball. A huge stone eyeball. It was a little strange. It seemed that Mid-Autumn Moon was really accepting the inheritance. Seeing that Mid-Autumn Moon was fine, Lu Ming finally breathed a sigh of relief. It was no wonder that Lu Ming could not send a message out all these years. Mid-Autumn Moon was in this underground space and was accepting the inheritance. It would be strange if the message could be sent out. The old man waved his hand and the image disappeared. Do you believe me now? Your wife has reached a critical moment in accepting the inheritance. I estimate that it will take a few more years for the inheritance to be completed. At that time, your wife's cultivation will skyrocket and she will become a peerless genius. The old man said with a smile. Lu Ming nodded and did not doubt him. It seemed that Mid-Autumn Moon's opportunity was not small. I'm Deng Xiao, little guy. What's your name? At this moment, the old man asked. I'm Lu Ming. Lu Ming replied. Lu Ming, your wife still needs a few more years to accept the inheritance. Why don't you wait for her here? After she is done, you can leave with her. What do you think? Deng Xiao said. That's what I think too. Lu Ming nodded. Well, that's it then. However, I won't make you wait for the next few years. Since you're here, it's your fortune. I'll give you a secret technique. Study it carefully in the next few years. Whether you can cultivate it successfully or not will depend on your talent. Deng Xiao said with a smile. Secret technique? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The owner of this place was an expert from the early Heavenly Palace era. The secret technique that he left behind was probably not to be underestimated. Lu Ming was a little tempted. Lu Ming, come with me. After Deng Xiao finished speaking, he turned around and walked toward the door behind him. Lu Ming followed behind. The underground space was huge. There were many palaces and stone rooms. Lu Ming followed Deng Xiao and went through several passages. Finally, they came to the bottom of a stone tablet. This stone tablet was huge. It was a few hundred meters tall. The stone tablet was engraved with strange runes. These runes were intertwined together and vaguely seemed to form a pair of eyes. What's carved on this stone tablet is a secret technique called the Yin-Yang Godly Eyes. It's a kind of eye technique. If you master it, you'll be able to kill people with just the opening and closing of your eyes. Deng Xiao introduced. As he spoke, the two arrived at the bottom. Lu Ming looked at the runes on the stone tablet seriously. At this moment, Deng Xiao's figure suddenly retreated. In the blink of an eye, he had retreated 1,000 meters away. Senior, what are you doing? Endless runes glowed and formed a huge formation. The formation was white on one side and black on the other. It looked like a Tai Chi formation. It covered an area of 1,000 meters. Boom! Lu Ming's figure flashed. He wanted to rush out of the formation. However, when he came to the edge, a light screen appeared and blocked Lu Ming's figure. Lu Ming crashed into the light screen and made a loud rumbling sound. Ha ha ha, kid. Stay in there obediently. At this moment, Deng Xiu's face was no longer kind. Instead, it was filled with a ferocious expression as he laughed out loud. Deng Xiu, you lied to me? Lu Ming roared. I didn't lie to you. My name is Deng Xiu. What's engraved on the stone tablet is a secret technique called yin-yang God Eyes. Deng Xiu sneered. Then why did you trick me into entering this formation? Lu Ming asked. It's simple. I want you to stay here obediently so that you won't ruin my master's plan. Deng Xiu sneered. Master's plan? What do you mean? Is it that stone ball? Lu Ming's face suddenly changed. Hee, it seems that you're a little smart. To tell you the truth, this is not my master's cave residence. The real master here was killed by my master in the early days of the Heavenly Palace era. Unfortunately, my master was seriously injured and only left an eye. He has been in a deep sleep until now. My master didn't wake up until your wife, that girl called Xiuyu, came in. That girl is amazing. She actually has the sacred heart of 9 orifices. As long as my master occupies her body, he can be resurrected and return to the peak. Ha ha ha. Deng Xiu laughed and explained. Lu Ming's heart sank. It turned out that what Deng Xiu said was false. What about Autumn Moon receiving the inheritance of a supreme expert? It was all nonsense. In fact, that stone ball took a fancy to Autumn Moon's physique and wanted to possess Autumn Moon and take Autumn Moon as its own. The scene that Deng Xiu showed Lu Ming just now was not Autumn Moon receiving the inheritance, but Autumn Moon resisting the other party's possession. Autumn Moon was facing a crisis. Lu Ming's face was extremely ugly. Speaking of which, that girl's mind is really tough. She has resisted for so many years. However, no matter how tough her mind is, she won't be able to resist for many years. At most 10 years, no, at most 8 years, she will be completely possessed by my master. Then, my master will take us away from this damn place and dominate the primitive universe. Ha ha ha. Deng Xiu laughed at the end of his words and was very proud. As he laughed, Deng Xiu's body changed rapidly and turned into a huge eyeball floating in the air, looking extremely ferocious. Hee, to tell you the truth, I don't have an ancestor at all. I evolved from my master's flesh. Deng Xiu continued to laugh. At this moment, Lu Ming knew that Lu Ming had been targeted the moment he entered this place. Deng Xiu had deliberately turned into an amiable old man and told a series of lies to trick Lu Ming into coming here and trapping Lu Ming. However, Deng Xiu was extremely cunning. His words were filled with both truth and lies, which was why Lu Ming fell for it. Don't even think about it. Lu Ming roared. He would never let Deng Xiu have his way. A long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Although Lu Ming's spear had been destroyed in the battle with Chu Baxing, Lu Ming still had a lot of spare spears. This one was also a 9th Order Divine Grade God artifact. Moon Slaying. Lu Ming's divine power surged as he slashed forward with his spear. A crescent-shaped spear light slashed at the light barrier at the edge of the formation. The light barrier only trembled slightly, then returned to normal. Hee, kid, don't waste your energy. This yin-yang formation isn't something you can break. Deng Xiu laughed mockingly. I don't believe. Lu Ming roared as his body expanded rapidly and turned into a green-armored ancient god. Chapter 3064. Exploding Star. Lu Ming transformed into a green-armored ancient god. He did not hold back at all. He exerted all his strength. A terrifying spear gleam burst forth and then exploded. Rumble. The destructive power bombarded the light screen of the formation, but the formation only trembled a little before returning to normal. This kid is actually so powerful. Deng Xiu was shocked when he saw Lu Ming's attack. He was secretly glad that he did not attack Lu Ming directly. Instead, He brought Lu Ming to the stone tablet and trapped Lu Ming with the yin-yang formation. However, he immediately laughed again. He, kid, don't waste your energy. You can't break this formation with brute force. Break, break, break. Lu Ming was too lazy to pay attention to his opponent and continued to attack. He must break this formation and save Qiuyu. Otherwise, Qiuyu would be possessed. Lu Ming absolutely could not let such a thing happen. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming launched a frenzied attack. Streaks of terrifying spear gleams bombarded the light screen, but it was useless. No matter how Lu Ming attacked, the light screen only trembled slightly and was fine. No matter how strong the bombardment was, it was the same. It could not be broken at all. After a while, Lu Ming stopped and his eyes were extremely gloomy. Old Liang, aren't you able to sense the energy of the formation? Why didn't you inform me in advance when that old man brought me in? Lu Ming transmitted his voice to the measuring word incantation. Last time, when they were ambushed, the measuring word incantation had sensed the formation set up by the other party in advance. Why didn't he warn him this time? If he had been warned in advance, Lu Ming would have been alert and would not have been trapped by the formation. Kid, do you think I'm the guy with the word formation? I can sense any formation. I could sense it last time because the formation set up by the other party was a killing formation. Moreover, it was newly set up and its energy was surging. That's why I could sense it. This formation is a trapping formation. Its energy is extremely mild, especially since it has been set up for many years. If it is not activated normally, there will be no energy reaction. How can I sense it? The measuring word incantation shouted unhappily. Lu Ming was speechless. He could not blame the measuring word incantation. I saw that there was a formation here before. At this moment, another voice sounded in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. That voice was clearly the voice of the Vitality Stone Spirit. Why didn't you remind me? Lu Ming asked. Do I need to remind you? As the owner of the Vitality Stone, if he couldn't even solve such a small problem, how could he compete with other competitors in the future? How can one wield a complete life spirit Vitality Stone and be called an overlord of the universe? The spirit asked. Lu Ming was stunned by the question and he gritted his teeth. This old guy deliberately did not remind him. Lu Ming wished he could step on his face. Lu Ming gritted his teeth. Do you have any way to get out? Lu Ming asked. No. The spirit and the measuring word incantation said in unison. Lu Ming almost vomited blood. Ha, kid. Are you desperate now? I've said that you can't get out. Even a peak divine king can't break this formation by force. You can only get out with a special method. Deng Xiu burst out laughing. He felt great at the sight of Lu Ming being dealt a blow. Special method? Lu Ming whispered. Why? What special method do you want to know? All right, I'll tell you. Deng Xiu smiled and stared at the stone tablet. The method to break this formation is the secret technique on the stone tablet, the yin-yang god eyes. As long as you cultivate the yin-yang god eyes, you can easily break this yin-yang formation. Secret technique, the yin-yang god eyes. Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he looked at the stone tablet. However, I have to remind you that there are conditions to cultivate the yin-yang god eyes. Two people have to control two completely opposite divine grade divine forces and be connected in mind to succeed. Moreover, even if you meet the conditions, you won't be able to comprehend it without at least 100 years. What do you think of this condition? It's simple, right? Ha. Deng Xiu laughed crazily at the end of his sentence. It was impossible for Lu Ming to fulfill this condition. In order to cultivate the yin-yang god eye, one would need two completely opposite types of divine grade divine powers. This required two people who were of the same mind. Even so, it would take at least 100 years to comprehend it even if one's talent was amazing. In 100 years, Autumn Moon would have been taken over by his master. Therefore, Deng Xiu had mentioned this condition because he wasn't afraid that Lu Ming would succeed. He had said it specifically to anger Lu Ming. He knew the method but couldn't cultivate it. He wanted to see how desperate Lu Ming would be. However, he was disappointed. Lu Ming's face didn't show any signs of despair. Instead, his eyes lit up as if he had seen the light of hope. Two completely opposite divine grade divine forces. Lu Ming controlled the Sun Divine Force and the Sun Divine Force. Weren't they two completely opposite divine grade divine forces? One was yang and one was yin. One was extreme yang and the other was extreme yin. Others needed two people to control two different divine forces, but Lu Ming could do it alone. Moreover, they had to be connected in mind. Even if two people were connected in mind, how could one person be connected? As long as Lu Ming could comprehend it before Autumn Moon was taken over, he would be able to break free and save Autumn Moon. 8 years. According to Deng Xiao, the Stone Eye would be able to successfully take over his body in 8 years. Lu Ming had to succeed in comprehending it within 8 years. Lu Ming ignored Deng Xiao and sat cross-legged under the stone tablet. He began to study the runes on the tablet. Humph, you want to comprehend the yin-yang God Eye? Dream on. Deng Xiao laughed disdainfully. He didn't believe that Lu Ming could comprehend it. First of all, he needed two completely opposite divine grade divine forces. Lu Ming couldn't have them. He thought that Lu Ming was desperate and knew that he couldn't get out, so he was just putting on an act for him to see. Wait patiently. When my master succeeds in taking over your body, he will kill you. Deng Xiao sneered and retreated to the side to monitor Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked at the runes on the stone tablet wholeheartedly. The stone tablet was covered with mysterious runes that intertwined with each other to form a mysterious pattern. Lu Ming looked at it for a while and felt dizzy. Just as Deng Xiao said, even if one met the requirements and had exceptional talent, it wasn't easy to comprehend the yin-yang God Eye. It was too difficult. It was harder to cultivate than any of Lu Ming's secret skills. After resting for a while, Lu Ming continued to comprehend it. Time flew, and a few months passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming finally understood something. Chapter 3065. After a few months of comprehension, Lu Ming finally had an idea of what was going on. The yin-yang God Eyes was based on two things. The first was the two completely opposite divine powers. For example, extreme yin and extreme cold, darkness and light, or even a combination of fast and slow, as long as the two opposite divine powers worked together. The second was the runes on the stone tablet. When the two opposite divine powers worked together with the runes, they could evolve into endless changes in his eyes and evolve into terrifying killing moves. However, these runes were too complicated, especially the ones that formed the yin-yang God Eyes. The more Lu Ming looked at them, the more he felt that there were endless changes in them. Mysterious. It's really mysterious, Lu Ming exclaimed. However, this aroused Lu Ming's competitive spirit even more. Next, Lu Ming focused even more on comprehending. Time passed, day by day, month by month. Time flew by, and almost 4 years had passed. At this moment, 10 years had passed since Lu Ming and the others entered Xingyue Ancient City. All these years, Lu Ming had been sitting cross-legged under the stone tablet, not moving at all. On this day, Lu Ming, who had been closing his eyes, suddenly opened his eyes. There were no eyeballs in his eyes at all. There were only two colors in his eyes. On the left, it was dark like an abyss. On the right, it was snow-white and emitted a holy light. In the next moment, dense runes flashed continuously in Lu Ming's eyes. After a long while, they disappeared. Lu Ming's eyes also returned to normal. It's been almost 4 years, and I've finally mastered it, Lu Ming muttered. The difficulty of cultivating this yin-yang God Eyes was beyond Lu Ming's imagination. Given Lu Ming's talent, regardless of whether he was cultivating other secret skills or divine skills, his speed was astonishingly fast and far surpassed that of ordinary people. However, it took him almost 4 years to cultivate this kind of secret skill at the entry level. Now that I've mastered it, I should be able to leave this formation, Lu Ming whispered. His eyes filled with a cold, murderous intent. Another 4 years had passed. Hopefully, the mid-autumn moon could hold on. Lu Ming slowly got up and walked out of the array. Oh my, after sitting here for 4 years, there's finally some movement? Don't tell me you want to kneel and beg for mercy? Deng Xiao mocked when he saw Lu Ming stand up. This time, I'll kill you, Lu Ming said coldly. What? Kill me? Ha ha ha. You've been sitting there for 4 years. Have you lost your mind? If you want to kill me, can you come out? Why don't you come out first? Ha ha ha. Deng Xiu laughed mockingly, but his laughter became softer and softer. In the end, his laughter got stuck in his throat and he couldn't laugh anymore. His huge eye was filled with disbelief. This was because Lu Ming's eyes had undergone a major change. Countless runes appeared in his eyes, interweaving into a strange pattern. Afterward, in the void in front of Lu Ming, many runes appeared out of thin air. These runes were like threads, intertwining with each other and flying towards the light screen formed by the formation. Chi-chi, these runes collided with the light screen of the formation, creating a sizzling sound. Then, the light screen was cut open, forming a door. The formation was broken. Lu Ming took a step forward and was out of the formation. At this moment, Deng Xiu stared at Lu Ming as if he had seen a ghost. He shouted in disbelief, "Yin Yang God Eyes! How could you have mastered Yin Yang God Eyes? This is impossible! This is impossible!" Deng Xiu shouted like a madman. This was completely beyond his comprehension. "Nothing is impossible when it comes to me," Lu Ming said coldly. Deng Xiu was shocked and quickly retreated. Lu Ming was about to give chase when he suddenly staggered and almost fell. At the same time, he felt a stabbing pain in his eyes and 2 streams of blood flowed out. "I didn't expect that using the Yin Yang God Eyes would put such a huge burden on my body and eyes." Lu Ming smiled bitterly. When he used the Yin Yang God Eyes to break the formation, Lu Ming's divine power was depleted. He felt weak and his eyes were severely injured. Although the Yin Yang God Eyes was powerful, it had a high requirement to use it. The Yin Yang God Eyes are divided into Yin Yang and Yang Yang. If I use them separately, it might be better. However, using both at the same time is too much of a burden. I have to be careful in the future. Lu Ming thought to himself, Min, kill this brat for me." At this moment, Deng Xiu finally reacted and yelled, "Swoosh! Swoosh!" As soon as Deng Xiu's voice fell, figures rushed out from all directions. These figures all had huge eyes, and they looked exactly like Deng Xiu. It was very disgusting. Clearly, they were the same as Deng Xiu. They were all formed from his master's minced flesh. Kill this brat!" These eyeballs roared loudly. Beams of divine light shot out from their eyes and charged toward Lu Ming. Ice chains. At this moment, the divine power in the quantum formula surged out and Lu Ming's body was filled with divine power. Then, 9 ice chains flew out and blocked in front of Lu Ming. The divine light bombarded the ice chains, but they were all blocked by the ice chains. "That's all there is to it. Then, go to hell." Lu Ming's cold voice could be heard. After exchanging blows, Lu Ming discovered that the power of these eyeballs was ordinary. The most powerful one was only a half-step divine king. Lu Ming used the ancient god body and turned into a green-armored ancient god. He shook his long spear and shot out beams of spear light towards the eyeballs. Bam! 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 These eyeballs were pierced by the spear light and exploded. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. In the blink of an eye, dozens of eyeballs were killed. Moon slash. Then, Lu Ming used the moon slash again. A crescent-shaped spear light slashed out and killed a large number of eyeballs. "No wonder you didn't dare to attack me directly. Instead, you trapped me in a formation. Your strength is average." Lu Ming had a thought. He held the long spear in his hand and charged toward the group of eyeballs, killing them all. In fact, it was normal. These eyeballs were their owners in the early days of the Heavenly Palace era when they fought with the owner of the cave mansion. The owner of the cave mansion destroyed their bodies and left behind some flesh and blood. After countless years, they evolved into evil creatures. No matter how strong their owners were, some of the flesh and blood that had been destroyed had lost a lot of spirituality after so many years. Naturally, the creatures they evolved into would not be that strong. Soon, hundreds of eyeballs were killed by Lu Ming. Bam! Lu Ming stepped out and closed in on Deng Xiu. "Brat, you are courting death." Deng Xiu shouted in horror. He turned around and fled towards one of the many passages. "So it's this passage. Saves me the trouble of looking for it." Lu Ming sneered. The passage that Deng Xiu escaped through was probably the place where Qiu Autumn Moon and his owner were. Deng Xiu was afraid and would most likely escape to his owner. Chapter 3066. Deng Xiu fled in front, while Lu Ming chased after him leisurely. Along the way, those eyeball monsters kept attacking Lu Ming, but they were all easily killed by Lu Ming. Not long after, they went through a few passages and came to a bronze door. "Master, save me, save me!" Deng Xiu screamed in horror and pushed the bronze door with all his might. Kacha. The bronze door was opened. The moment the bronze door was opened, Lu Ming saw the scene behind the door. Behind the door was a stone room. In the middle of the stone room, a young lady was sitting cross-legged. It was Autumn Moon. From a distance, Lu Ming could see that Autumn Moon's face revealed a trace of pain. She seemed to be struggling to hold on. Her body was covered with a layer of 9-colored divine light. However, compared to a few years ago, the 9-colored divine light on Autumn Moon's body seemed to have dimmed a lot. On top of Autumn Moon's head, there was an eyeball with a diameter of a few meters. It was flickering with a black radiance and was constantly approaching Autumn Moon. Seeing this scene, Lu Ming was slightly relieved. At least, Autumn Moon was still holding on and had not been taken over by the other party. However, the anger in Lu Ming's heart burned fiercely. "Master, save me!" Deng Xiu screamed and wanted to rush towards the stone eyeball. "Moon slaying," Lu Ming said coldly. His long spear slashed down, and a crescent-shaped spear light slashed towards Deng Xiu. Deng Xiu's cultivation was only equivalent to an ordinary half-step divine king. He could not block Lu Ming's attack. The spear light slashed through, and Deng Xiu screamed miserably as he was killed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming strode towards the door. Behind the door was a huge stone room. However, it was in a mess. The walls of the stone room were filled with cracks and dents. It seemed like a great battle had taken place here. The buildings here were filled with runes and were incomparably tough. The strength of those who could fill the walls with cracks and dents was definitely astonishing. This was most likely left behind by the Great War at the beginning of the Heavenly Palace era. Lu Ming glanced around and found nothing out of the ordinary. Then, he strode toward the mid-autumn moon. "Get lost, brat." At this moment, the stone eyeball above Autumn Moon's head let out a loud roar. "You're the one who should get lost," Lu Ming coldly shouted. His long spear swept out, sweeping towards the stone bead. "You're courting death." The stone bead let out a loud cry. Then, a beam of divine light shot out from the stone eyeball and blasted towards Lu Ming. Clang! The divine light bombarded the long spear, causing it to vibrate violently. Lu Ming felt a terrifying power coming from the spear, and his body involuntarily trembled as he retreated. Whoosh! Whoosh! Following that, divine light continuously shot out from the stone eyeball. In the blink of an eye, it had shot out dozens of beams of divine light. Space whistled as dozens of divine lights shot towards Lu Ming. Moon slaying, moon slaying. His divine power surged wildly. Lu Ming continuously cast the moon-slaying technique for more than 10 times. More than 10 crescent-shaped spear gleams slashed out, blocking the dozens of divine lights. Lu Ming didn't dare to use the exploding star technique. Exploding star was an indiscriminate attack. If he used it, it would envelop the mid-autumn moon as well. A 5th-level celestial god with such strength. Wait a minute, you have the origin ancient words in your body. They are the words battle and quantity. Ha ha ha, the heavens are really helping me. Once I possess this girl and combine the 2 origin ancient words, this heavenly lord will definitely regain his glory. No, I might even become stronger. The stone eyeball started to let out a surprised sound, then it laughed as if it was in ecstasy. Lu Ming was shocked. This stone eyeball actually saw through the 2 origin ancient characters in his body right away. In the past, Lu Ming had met many divine kings, but none of them could see the ancient origin words in his body. Because the ancient origin words could hide themselves, outsiders couldn't see them at all. This stone eyeball was incredible. I must destroy this eyeball. Lu Ming's eyes were cold. Then, he waved his spear and kept attacking the stone eyeball. Kid, Go to hell. A cold voice came out from the stone eyeball. It vibrated slightly as if it was preparing for a more terrifying attack. But then, Mid-Autumn Moon shouted, and the 9-colored divine light on her body suddenly became bright. A 9-colored heart could be vaguely seen beating in her heart. The sacred heart of 9 orifices. Apparently, Mid-Autumn Moon had also noticed Lu Ming. When the stone eyeball was distracted to attack Lu Ming, she also launched a counterattack. Damn it! The stone eyeball let out a roar. It had to divert more energy to deal with Mid-Autumn Moon and less energy to deal with Lu Ming. Boom! Boom! In the stone chamber, the rumbling continued. Lu Ming kept attacking and finally got close to the stone eyeball. Dong! Finally, Lu Ming seized the opportunity and hit the stone eyeball with his spear. The stone eyeball shook violently, but nothing happened. Lu Ming didn't break it. Kid, you can't break my defense. Although so many years have passed and my strength is less than 1 billion of my peak, my defense is still there. You can't break it, haha. The stone eyeball laughed. Is that so? Then I'll pull you apart. Lu Ming said coldly. Then, 9 ice chains flew out and wrapped around the stone eyeball. A layer of ice crystals appeared on the stone eyeball, trying to freeze it. Get lost. The stone eyeball roared and black divine light rushed out from its surface. The ice crystals exploded one after another. The black divine light hit the ice chains. The ice chains shook violently and cracks appeared on some of the ice chains. The ice chains couldn't withstand it anymore. Come here. Lu Ming shouted and desperately pulled the ice chains, trying to pull the stone eyeball away from Autumn Moon's head. As long as the stone eyeball was pulled away, Autumn Moon would be saved. Even if they couldn't kill the stone eyeball, they could still escape. Pong! Pong! Under the constant assault of the stone eyeball's divine light, 2 of the ice chains were finally broken. You can't pull me away. The stone eyeball roared. Is that so? Lu Ming's eyes were calm. With a wave of his hand, 2 more ice chains flew out and wrapped around the stone eyeball. Next, as long as the ice chains broke, Lu Ming would immediately condense them. Lu Ming had plenty of divine power to waste. A moment later, the stone eyeball was finally pulled away by Lu Ming. After being pulled away a little, Autumn Moon immediately seized the opportunity to resist. Kid, you're courting death. You're courting death. Don't think that I, the Lord of Heaven, have no way to deal with you. Die. A furious roar came from within the stone eyeball. Then, a beam of light flew out from within the stone eyeball. When the beam of light flew out, it turned into a figure. It was a middle-aged man wearing ancient armor. The most peculiar thing about him was his eyes. They were extremely bright, like 2 suns. Chapter 3067. The middle-aged man was obviously the original form of the stone eyeball. At this moment, he was staring at Lu Ming furiously and roaring, Kid, I'll let you experience the God-destroying light of this Lord Heaven. It's your honor to die under the God-destroying light. As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged man turned into a ray of divine light and rushed towards Lu Ming, enveloping Lu Ming in divine light. As soon as he was enveloped by the divine light, Lu Ming felt goosebumps all over his body. He felt a great sense of danger. Sure enough, in the next moment, Lu Ming felt waves of piercing pain all over his body. The light seemed to be melting his body. Block it! Lu Ming roared in his heart. He unleashed all his divine power and used the 9 layers golden armor to cover his body to block the divine light. However, the 9 layers golden armor was useless. Chi-chi, under the divine light, the 9 layers golden armor emitted a sizzling sound, as if ice and snow had met fire and was constantly melting. Kid, you actually control so many types of divine power? Amazing, really amazing. The stone eyeball's voice sounded again, full of surprise. Obviously, the other party didn't know about the existence of the universe myriad Dao technique. However, at this moment, Lu Ming didn't have the time to think about it. He only wanted to block the divine light because it was too terrifying. It constantly penetrated Lu Ming's 9 layers golden armor and enveloped Lu Ming's body. As soon as the divine light touched Lu Ming's skin, Lu Ming's body felt as if it was being burned by fire. A piercing pain spread all over his body. Lu Ming was even horrified to find that wherever the divine light touched, Lu Ming's flesh and blood melted like ice and snow. This scene was extremely terrifying. If this continued, Lu Ming's body would be melted by the divine light. The other party called this divine light the God-destroying light. It was indeed terrifying. The other party's strength was less than 1,000,000,000,000 of his peak, but it still had such amazing power. Ice chains. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He recalled the frost shackles and wrapped them around his body. He wanted to use the frost shackles to block the attack of the God-slaying light. However, the ice shackles were unable to withstand the God-destroying light. Under the God-destroying light, the ice shackles rapidly melted. Old Liang, do you have a way to absorb this divine light? At the critical moment, Lu Ming transmitted his voice to the measuring formula. There's nothing I can do about it. This is the light of destruction, and the other party is an ancient existence. His willpower is too strong. How can I possibly absorb the power that he cultivated? Unless your cultivation level is comparable to his, then I'll be able to unleash its power. The quantifying formula said. Lu Ming was speechless and placed his hopes on the rock spirit. Old man, do you have any ideas? If you don't help me this time, I'm going to die. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to the rock spirit. I'm just an incomplete rock spirit. What can I do? Moreover, the other party is the divine Eye Lord of Heaven. The God-destroying light of the divine Eye Lord of Heaven is one of the most terrifying forces in the world. Sigh, it seems that I'm too unlucky. I just acknowledged you as my master, and you're going to die. Sigh. The rock spirit heaved a long sigh. Lu Ming was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Not only did the old man refuse to help, but he even cursed him. Lu Ming wished he could stomp on the old man. Asterisk sizzle. Asterisk at this moment, more and more God-destroying light touched Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming discovered that his flesh was melting. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before Lu Ming was completely melted by the God-destroying light. Unfortunately, Lu Ming couldn't do anything about it. Ha 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 boy, you're really my lucky star. You actually brought me 2 origin ancient characters. Opportunity, a great opportunity. The other party laughed and became more and more excited. On the other hand, Lu Ming became more and more anxious. Could it be that he and Autumn Moon were going to die here today? Let's fight. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and decided to try burning the ancient god's heart. It was better than dying here. Although Lu Ming felt that it might not be useful even if he burned the ancient god's heart. The god-destroying light was too strange, but he had to give it a try. However, before burning the ancient god's heart, Lu Ming had to take out the purple copper coffin. The last time Lu Ming burned the ancient god's heart, it was because of the purple copper coffin that he recovered. If burning the ancient god's heart could deal with the stone eyeball, maybe he could recover with the help of the purple copper coffin? He had to give it a try, right? Lu Ming's mind stirred, and the purple copper coffin flew out from the frightening feather painting. But just as the purple copper coffin flew out, something strange happened. The purple copper coffin suddenly shone brightly and flew out from between Lu Ming's eyebrows, floating above Lu Ming's head. Crack! The lid of the purple copper coffin opened by itself, revealing a gap. A terrifying and unimaginable aura spread out from the gap of the coffin lid. Compared to this aura, Lu Ming felt that he was just a speck of dust. No, the strongest divine king that Lu Ming had met was just a speck of dust in front of this aura. Lu Ming seemed to see the great battle of the ancient gods through the lid of the purple copper coffin. Ah, why do you have such a thing? Why do you have such a thing? At this moment, the divine Eye Lord of Heaven suddenly screamed. His voice was filled with endless horror and fear. He seemed to recognize the purple copper coffin. Buzz. The aura of the purple copper coffin enveloped Lu Ming's body. The light of destruction on Lu Ming's body began to vibrate violently. Then, it left Lu Ming's body and turned into a figure again. It was the middle-aged man who called himself the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. The middle-aged man's face was filled with endless horror and disbelief. How could such a legendary thing appear on your body? Impossible, impossible. The Divine Eye Lord of Heaven roared and tried to escape. However, There seemed to be a force of attraction from the purple copper coffin that firmly locked onto the divine Eye Lord of Heaven. No matter how the divine Eye Lord of Heaven struggled, it was useless. He was flying toward the gap of the purple copper coffin. No, no, no. The divine Eye Lord of Heaven roared in horror and struggled madly, but it was useless. After a few breaths, the divine Eye Lord of Heaven was completely sucked into the purple copper coffin. After the divine Eye Lord of Heaven was sucked in, the purple copper coffin closed automatically. All the aura disappeared, and the purple copper coffin returned to its simple and unadorned appearance. Then, it fell and pressed down on Lu Ming. Lu Ming was shocked. He quickly controlled the frightening feather painting and sucked the purple copper coffin into it. Phew! Lu Ming let out a long sigh as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. This time, it was really thrilling. He did not expect the purple copper coffin to work at the critical moment and suck the divine Eye Lord of Heaven in. Until now, Lu Ming was still a little stunned. Everything had changed too quickly. After a long while, Lu Ming recovered and walked toward the autumn moon. At this moment, the autumn moon shouted softly, "Keep." Then, the 9-colored divine light on the autumn moon shone brightly and covered the stone eyeball. The stone eyeball began to shrink and flew toward the autumn moon's body. Chapter 3068. The 9-colored divine light shrouded the stone eyeball. The stone eyeball began to shrink and flew toward Chiu Autumn Moon's body. Dream, little talk star. Tom Lu Ming was shocked and was about to step forward to stop it. Master, don't act rashly. This is a great opportunity for this girl. Shiling's voice sounded. Great opportunity? Lu Ming was puzzled. He stopped in his tracks. Yes, this stone eyeball can be said to be transformed from one of the eyes of the divine Eye Lord of Heaven. It contains all the inheritance of the divine Eye Lord of Heaven. Now that the remnant soul of the divine Eye Lord of Heaven has been completely destroyed, this stone eyeball will be absorbed and integrated by this girl. This girl will obtain the inheritance of the divine Eye Lord of Heaven. This is the inheritance of the divine Eye Lord of Heaven. This girl also has the 9 apertures sacred heart. Her future achievements will be limitless. She will be a capable assistant of Master, Shiling explained. Lu Ming was delighted. The soul of the divine Eye Lord of Heaven had been taken away by the purple copper coffin. Now, this stone eyeball was equivalent to a treasure that could be absorbed and refined. Chiu Autumn Moon was going to refine this stone eyeball and obtain the inheritance of the other party. By the way, what's the background of the divine Eye Lord of Heaven? Lu Ming asked. His background is amazing. How many people in the primitive universe dare to call themselves the Lord of Heaven? Every one of them is an overlord in the world. Shiling said. In the end, you didn't say anything about the other party's background. Lu Ming curled his lips. The Heavenly Palace. Do you know about it? Shiling asked. The Heavenly Palace. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and a trace of shock flashed in his eyes. Is he from the Heavenly Palace? Yes, the title of the Lord of Heaven is only in the Heavenly Palace. Every Lord of Heaven is a giant in the Heavenly Palace. Shiling explained. Lu Ming was shocked. The primitive universe was divided into the incipient God era and the Heavenly Palace era. The reason why it was divided into the Heavenly Palace era was because of the Heavenly Palace. After the incipient God era, the Heavenly Palace had become the real overlord of the desolate universe. It ruled the entire universe. The divine Eye Lord of Heaven was actually a giant from the Heavenly Palace. Such a background was truly shocking. However, according to legend, there was more than one Heavenly Palace in the primitive universe. Lu Ming did not know the details. After all, such a force was too far away from Lu Ming. Even the Taishu dynasty was just an ant in front of the Heavenly Palace. However, Lu Ming couldn't help but reveal a look of joy when he thought about how he could obtain the inheritance of the Lord of Heaven by Autumn Moon. The inheritance of the Lord of Heaven was incredible. At this moment, the stone eyeball shrank and turned into a jet of light, shooting into Autumn Moon's body and disappearing. Boom! In the next moment, an intimidating aura exploded from Autumn Moon's body. The aura was earth-shaking, filling the stone chamber. It was incomparably violent. Autumn Moon's soft body trembled. Her face paled and blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. What's going on? Lu Ming was frightened. Oh no, there's still residual energy in the eyeball of Lord of Divine Eye. There's too much energy. Even if this girl has the 9 orifices sacred heart, she won't be able to absorb that much at once. Her body is going to explode from the energy. Shiling hurried to shout. What can we do? Lu Ming was extremely worried. At this moment, Autumn Moon coughed out another mouthful of blood. Her body swelled up. Kid, hurry up. This is ownerless energy. I can absorb it. I'll transfer some of it to you. Help her share some of it and she'll be fine. Measuring Formula shouted. Yes, yes, yes. Lu Ming nodded repeatedly. He was too concerned. Lu Ming did not think of such a simple method. Lu Ming strode forward and came to Autumn Moon's side. His glabella shone and the measuring formula flew out. A devouring force shrouded Autumn Moon's body. Suddenly, the energy in Autumn Moon's body was absorbed by the measuring formula. Autumn Moon's body began to shrink. Soon, she returned to her original size. Autumn Moon's aura also began to stabilize. The sacred heart of 9 orifices on her chest shone brightly and pulsated like a drum. Boundless energy poured into the sacred heart of 9 orifices. In the end, Lu Ming vaguely saw a stone eyeball fly into Autumn Moon's 9 orifices sacred heart and merged with it. At this time, the measuring formula flew back and returned to Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. Kid, this is the remaining energy of the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. I can refine it a little and transfer it to you. You can absorb it and improve your cultivation. Measuring Formula said, Is Autumn Moon okay? Lu Ming asked. She's fine. Don't worry. Most of the energy has been integrated into her 9 orifices sacred heart. Her cultivation will improve by leaps and bounds later. Shiling explained. Lu Ming was relieved. He removed his ancient god body and returned to his original form. He sat cross-legged at the side. Sure enough, soon, a surge of energy from the measuring formula flowed into Lu Ming's body. The energy was shocking. It was extremely easy to absorb. Lu Ming executed the universe Tao technique and began to absorb the energy. He converted it into different kinds of god force to strengthen his godly flames. The 9 godly flames in his dantian continued to grow stronger. Lu Ming's cultivation rose rapidly too. It was approaching the peak 5th layer heaven god realm. A few days later, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the peak 5th layer heaven god realm. He then began to break through to the 6th layer heaven god realm. Bang, bang, bang. Loud explosions kept coming out of Lu Ming's body. Another 7 days were gone. The energy absorbed by the measuring formula had been transferred to Lu Ming. A loud explosion took place inside Lu Ming's body. A powerful aura burst out from Lu Ming's body. 6th layer heaven god realm. Lu Ming's cultivation broke through to the 6th layer heaven god realm after absorbing the energy transferred to him by the measuring formula. Lu Ming had mastered many kinds of god force. It would take a lot of energy to improve his cultivation. This time, he had broken through to the next level. If it were someone else, it would be enough to break through to the next level. Lu Ming rose to his feet. His eyes flickered. His battle strength had grown stronger after his breakthrough. If he were to face geniuses like Yuhan and Chu Baxing now, he would be able to crush them easily. Lu Ming thought. He then shifted his gaze to Chiao Moon. Lu Ming's face flickered with astonishment after taking a glance. Chiao Moon's aura was shockingly strong too. 7th layer heaven god realm. Chiao Moon's cultivation had reached the 7th layer heaven god realm. When they first entered Xingyue Ancient City, Chiao Moon's cultivation was only at the 2nd layer heaven god realm. On top of that, Chiao Moon had also cultivated the universe Tao technique. She had mastered many kinds of god force. The energy she needed to improve her cultivation was no less than Lu Ming's. However, Chiao Moon had broken through to the 7th layer heaven god realm in such a short time. The speed of her improvement was shocking. While Lu Ming was thinking, another shocking aura burst out of Chiao Moon's body. Her god force boiled like a tide. A powerful aura spread out in all directions. 8th layer heaven god realm. Lu Ming was tongue-tied, looking stunned. Chapter 3069. In just a short while, Chiyo Automoon had another breakthrough and reached the 8th layer Heaven God realm. This speed was too fast, wasn't it? Master, don't be too surprised. The girl has obtained the inheritance of the godly Eye Lord of Heaven, and with the help of the 9 orifices Sacred Heart, it's normal for her to improve rapidly. The Shirling explained. That's right. Besides, I've only absorbed a portion of the energy. It's like you've only taken a sip of the soup, while the girl has eaten all the meat. It's normal for her to improve rapidly. The quantifying formula also explained. Lu Ming nodded. He had only taken a sip of the soup, and his cultivation had improved from the 5th layer Heaven God realm to the 6th layer Heaven God realm. Chiyo Automoon had completely inherited the inheritance of the godly Eye Lord of Heaven, thus her cultivation had skyrocketed. Of course, it was only at the beginning. It was impossible for her to keep improving in the future. Chiyo Automoon's cultivation had yet to come to an end. In the blink of an eye, another 7 days had passed. The aura on Chiyo Yu's body rose sharply with another rumble. She had another breakthrough. 9th layer Heaven God realm. Chiyo Automoon's cultivation had reached the 9th layer Heaven God realm. Besides, an ancient aura was emitting from Chiyo Automoon's body. The origin God force factor. Lu Ming's eyes glittered. Chiyo Automoon had awakened the origin God force factor. However, just like Lu Ming, only her ruler God force had awakened the origin God force factor. The rest of her God force had yet to be awakened. Chiyo Automoon's aura finally stabilized. It did not continue to rise. A few days later, Chiyo Automoon's aura finally stabilized. She then opened her eyes. "Young master," Chiyo Automoon exclaimed and threw herself into Lu Ming's arms. Chiyo Automoon was aware of what had happened before. She originally thought that she would never be able to see Lu Ming and that she would be possessed by the divine Eye Lord of Heaven. She did not expect that halfway through, Lu Ming would come and kill the divine Eye Lord of Heaven in one fell swoop. And because she had been in a stalemate with the God Eye Lord of Heaven for many years, she had a connection. When the God Eye Lord of Heaven's soul was destroyed, she automatically absorbed the inheritance left behind by the God Eye Lord of Heaven. Mid-Automoon. Everything is fine now. Let's go. Lu Ming caressed Automoon's hair. The two of them were affectionate for a while before they left the place hand in hand. Along the way, they would occasionally encounter those eyeball monsters, but they were easily dealt with by Lu Ming and Automoon. Automoon's cultivation had skyrocketed too much, so she was not used to it yet. She was still not very familiar with controlling the divine power in her body. She needed time to practice. He believed that when Automoon fully adapted to her current cultivation, her strength would be shockingly strong. One had to know that Automoon also controlled many kinds of divine power. In addition, she had awakened the origin divine power factor and was a level 9 heavenly god. Once she fully adapted, even if Lu Ming did his best, he might not be a match for Automoon. Soon, the two of them arrived at the outermost stone room. Above their heads, there was a rumbling sound. That was the sound of the whirlpool in the myriad moon lake. When they looked up, they could still see the whirlpool. It was very strange. "Let's rush out," Lu Ming said. "Okay." Automoon nodded. The two of them rose into the air and rushed into the whirlpool. Whoosh! The whirlpool rotated with great force, forming a shocking force that blocked their path. It was not that easy for the two of them to go against the flow. Starburst! Lu Ming shouted and transformed into his ancient god body. He used all his strength and stabbed out with his spear. Rumble! The lake water exploded, forming a passage. The two of them took the opportunity to fly forward. However, the lake water soon surged and blocked the passage again. God-destroying light! Automoon shouted and slashed out with her palm. A pitch-black divine light was slashed at the whirlpool in front of them. "This is..." Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He was a little surprised. He did not expect Automoon to master the Lord of Heaven's God-destroying light so quickly. The God-destroying light was extremely powerful. Even if Automoon had just mastered it, she could still unleash shocking power. A passage was immediately slashed out by the God-destroying light. The two of them continued to move forward. Just like that, the two of them worked together and took turns to attack. Soon, they passed through the whirlpool and flew out of the whirlpool, arriving above the myriad moon lake. Huff! The two of them exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. They were finally out. This trip was daunting but not dangerous. They even had a breakthrough in their cultivation, especially Autumn Moon, who had obtained the inheritance of the Lord of Heaven. Autumn Moon, you've obtained the inheritance of the Lord of Heaven. Don't let anyone know about this, Lu Ming said to Autumn Moon. The inheritance of the Lord of Heaven was definitely an unimaginable opportunity. If others knew about it, it would definitely bring about a disaster, just like the origin ancient characters. Understood, young master. Autumn Moon smiled. By the way, Autumn Moon, how did you get into this whirlpool? Lu Ming asked curiously. I was forced in. Autumn Moon said. You were forced to go in? Who? A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. A member of the Winged Men, the Thunderous Winged Men. Autumn Moon said. The Thunderous Winged Men. Lu Ming thought of the young man from the Thunderous Winged Men that he had met when he first arrived at the Myriad Moon Lake. It was the young man who had guided Lu Ming and got Lu Ming into the whirlpool. Lu Ming immediately described the appearance of the young man from the Thunderous Winged Men that he had met. Yes, it's him. Autumn Moon said. Why did he force you into the whirlpool? Lu Ming asked. He said that someone had asked him to deal with you, young master. Since I'm your subordinate, he wanted to take me down to threaten you. He also said that I must have some secret since I was able to pass the gate of heaven at the second level of the heaven god realm. If I didn't tell him, he would. At this point, Autumn Moon bit her red lips and didn't continue. However, Lu Ming could guess what Autumn Moon was going to say. Lu Ming held Autumn Moon's hand and asked her to continue. Of course, I wouldn't let him succeed. However, I was no match for him and I couldn't escape. In the end, I had no choice but to take the risk and rush into the whirlpool. I didn't expect that there would be another world inside the whirlpool. After entering, I met the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven and he wanted to take over my body. After that, I tried my best to resist the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. Then, young master came. Autumn Moon briefly recounted what had happened in the past few years. The Thunderous Winged Men. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with cold light and cold killing intent. He completely understood. The Thunderous Winged Men were most likely invited by the Jin family or the Qin family to kill Lu Ming in the Xingyue Ancient City. After entering the Xingyue Ancient City, the young man from the Winged Men met Autumn Moon near the Wanyue Lake. He wanted to capture Autumn Moon and use her to threaten Lu Ming. At the same time, he wanted to obtain the secrets on Autumn Moon. He even wanted to scheme against Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon had no choice but to rush into the whirlpool to avoid the young man. The young man definitely didn't dare to enter the whirlpool. Therefore, he had been wandering around the area to cultivate. After many years, Autumn Moon didn't come out. He probably thought that there was danger in the whirlpool and that Autumn Moon had died inside. Later on, Lu Ming came. The young man had bad intentions and tricked Lu Ming into entering the whirlpool. He wanted to kill Lu Ming too. Chapter 3070. That person must die. Lu Ming said coldly as a cold light flashed in his eyes. This person was vicious and almost killed Xiao Moon. In Lu Ming's heart, he had already sentenced this person to death. If there was a chance, he must kill this person. Then, Lu Ming looked around. Unfortunately, he did not see the whereabouts of the Winged Man clan near the Myriad Moon Lake. It seemed that he had left long ago. Xiao Moon, 10 years is almost up. Let's go out. Lu Ming said. Xiao Moon nodded obediently. Immediately, the two of them chose a direction and turned into two rays of light, quickly leaving. There was a special passage to leave Star Crescent Ancient City. The passage on the side of 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion was in a huge valley east of Star Crescent Ancient City. The people from other Heavenly King Mansions had other channels. Every time someone entered the Star Moon Ancient City, they would exit through a special passageway. This passageway would open every 10 years. Now, the 10 years were almost up. The Myriad Moon Lake was west of Star Crescent Ancient City. There was still a long way to go from the east. The two of them rushed at full speed and spent 7 days before they arrived at the exit. In the sky above a big valley, a huge vortex appeared. This was the exit passage. No one could explain why such a passage would open 10 years after they entered. Perhaps it was a formation set up by the experts who built Star Crescent Ancient City. Everyone could only guess. When the two of them arrived, they found that there were people flying towards them from all directions. Some of them directly flew into the vortex and disappeared. Obviously, some of them had already left. Brother Lu Ming. A few voices sounded. Lu Ming turned around and saw Wu Ming, Wu Yu and the others flying towards him. Brother Wu Ming, Brother Wu Yu. Lu Ming smiled and greeted them. Miss Chiu Moon is fine. That's great. When Wu Ming and the others saw Chiu Moon, they also smiled. It's a long story. Let's go out and talk about it. Lu Ming said. Immediately, everyone flew into the whirlpool. After flying into the whirlpool, they felt the world spinning around them. In the next moment, Lu Ming discovered that he had already left Star Moon Ancient City and was back outside the city walls. With a glance, Lu Ming saw the elder of the Starry Sky Battalion, Bai Li, sitting cross-legged in the air. In addition, there were many figures standing in the sky. They were the geniuses of the Starry Barracks from the Starry Moon Ancient City. Lu Ming saw Su Yin, the young man, and Jin Yuan. Su Yin, the young man clad in animal skin, and the others nodded at Lu Ming as a greeting. As for Jin Yuan, his eyes were extremely cold and filled with killing intent. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt a cold, killing intent enveloping him. Lu Ming looked around and saw a beautiful woman coldly staring at him. Lan Ling. Who else could this woman be other than Lan Ling, who had been trying to kill him? However, Lan Ling did not attack this time. She only stared coldly at Lu Ming and then glanced at Autumn Moon. Young master, who is that lady? She seems to have a deep grudge against you. Did you do something wrong? Autumn Moon was very sensitive. She noticed Lan Ling and whispered softly, Little girl, don't let your imagination run wild. I am a gentleman. Lu Ming immediately said righteously. She could not let her imagination run wild and ruin his character. Autumn Moon smiled and did not say much. It's him. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes turned cold and his body emitted a cold killing intent. He saw a young man from the Winged Men tribe with lightning flashing on his wings. He was the one who had guided Lu Ming into the whirlpool at the Myriad Moon Lake. He was also the one who wanted to deal with Autumn Moon and force Autumn Moon into the whirlpool. Obviously, this person had come out earlier than Lu Ming and the rest. Boom. Lu Ming's body emitted a powerful aura. He took a step forward and charged towards the young man from the Winged Men tribe. Young master, be careful. Autumn Moon also noticed the young man. She knew that she could not persuade Lu Ming given his temper. She could only remind him worriedly and followed closely behind Lu Ming. Wu Ming and the rest looked at each other and followed behind Lu Ming. The people in front of Lu Ming were suppressed by Lu Ming's aura. They retreated and opened up a path for him. Lu Ming quickly moved towards the young man from the Winged Men tribe. The young man from the Winged Men tribe also saw Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. His expression changed drastically. Damn it. The two of them entered the whirlpool and are still fine? What a blunder. The young man from the Winged Men tribe looked gloomy. Seeing that Lu Ming was getting closer and closer to him, the young man from the Winged Men tribe felt chills all over his body. He shouted, Lu Ming, what are you doing? Killing you. Lu Ming's reply was simple. His voice was bone-chilling. Killing me? What do you mean? I didn't offend you. Why do you want to kill me? You're simply insane and lawless. The young man from the Winged Men tribe shouted. Of course, he would not admit that he wanted to deal with Autumn Moon. Hee hee. Lu Ming sneered. His aura became more aggressive. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with the young man. A long spear appeared in his hand. A spear radiance burst out and charged towards the young man from the Winged Men tribe. You. The young man from the Winged Men tribe was shocked. His aura surged, especially the pair of wings on his back. Thunder rumbled. Whoosh. He flapped his wings and they were like divine sabers piercing through the air. The thunderbolts on his wings transformed into two thunderbolt sabers that slashed toward Lu Ming. The thunder battle blades clashed with Lu Ming's spear radiance, causing a shockwave. The young man from the Winged Men tribe was not weak. He was a half-step divine king, and his divine force had awakened to 99%. He was not far from fully awakening his divine force. However, how could he contend with Lu Ming's current strength? Boom! The thunder battle blades of the young man from the Winged Men tribe were shattered. The spear radiance did not stop and continued to charge towards the young man from the Winged Men tribe. The young man from the Winged Men tribe screamed in fear. His body soared into the sky, trying to dodge Lu Ming's spear radiance. However, he was too late. One of his thighs was pierced by the spear radiance and exploded. The young man from the Winged Men tribe screamed in pain. He retreated a few thousand meters and vomited blood. What? So powerful. Lu Ming's strength is so terrifying? Many people gasped in shock. Not everyone had seen Lu Ming's attack. Only a small portion of them had seen Lu Ming's attack. Those who had not seen Lu Ming's attack were shocked when they saw Lu Ming injuring the young man from the Winged Men tribe. The young man from the Winged Men tribe was called Yixiang. He was the 16th young master of the Winged Men tribe. His talent was outstanding, and he was quite famous in the Starry Camp. Yixiang's strength had undoubtedly increased after the trip to the Starry Crescent ancient city. However, he was still no match for Lu Ming. How could Lu Ming be so powerful? You guys don't know. Lu Ming defeated Jin Yuan. Someone whispered. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.